with the rape of a...
In Minnesota, the visiting Pittsburgh Penguins beat the Wild by the score of 4-3 in overtime. This is the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Mike Sullivan. Evgeny Malkin scored the game-winning goal for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Jake Getzel scored a goal for the Penguins. He felt this game had playoff vibes. Penguins visit Colorado on Sunday. By the way, the Penguins moved 1 point behind idle New York Rangers for second place in the Metropolitan Division. First place, Carolina. They were idle on Thursday. They have a 6-point lead ahead of the Pittsburgh Penguins in the division. Some football notes. The Pittsburgh Steelers have signed 2 former Cleveland Browns. They're linebacker Jannard Avery and safety Carl Joseph. The big news in the NFL, he's no longer a member of the Seattle.
www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Ready, set, go get your Toyota today. Check out Toyota's wide range of all-wheel and four-wheel drive vehicles, like the brand new Corolla Cross, with available all-wheel drive and more cargo room than ever. Or go off-road in a rugged new 4Runner. Visit your Toyota dealer today, or go online to buyatoyota.com, the official website for deals. Hurry, reserve yours. Offers end April 4th. Toyota, let's go places.
It's the little moments that have the biggest impact. Every time you mentor a child or donate your time or money, you empower their future. You can help make a difference and be a hero in the eyes of a child, one simple act of encouragement at a time. Positive childhoods lead to promising futures. Help prevent child abuse and neglect in your community. Learn more at octf.ohio.gov.
You make 35,000 decisions every day. Are your gambling decisions good ones? If you struggle with a problem with gambling, call 1-800-589-9966 for free confidential support. Do you have a loved one who struggles with a problem with gambling? This 24/7 helpline also provides resources on how to support a loved one who may need help. Call 1-800-589-9966 or visit beforeyoubet.org.
For all of your IT needs, visit OmniPerforms.com. Omni Strategic Technologies, the only IT company that the watchdog trusts.
Plumbers and Steam Fitters Local 83 want to thank the owners and contractors of the Ohio Valley for using their locally trained workers to help build for the future. Local 83 helps design, fabricate, and build the gas infrastructure for the oil and gas industry here in the Ohio Valley. Plumbers and Steam Fitters Local 83 is 300 members strong and growing. They also do residential, commercial, and industrial work on both sides of the river. For more information, call Plumbers and Steam Fitters Local 83 at 304-233-4445.
The best in live and local talk returns momentarily on The Watchdog.
Hello, everyone. From The Watchdog, I am the Storm Tracker, Darnell Foster, with a look at your local weather forecast for your Friday. Mostly cloudy skies, a few showers, maybe even a snowflake or two mixing in before the day is done, with daytime highs in the low to mid-40s, the overnight low of 31 degrees. Under mostly cloudy skies with scattered showers and storms, you'll see clouds and sunshine, but a cooler day in store for your Saturday with highs in the upper 40s. Have yourself a great day, everyone. From The Watchdog, I'm Darnell Foster.
The views and opinions expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of this station or its sponsors.
Conversations you care about with people you know. This is the Watchdog Morning Show with Howard Monroe on WKKX and WVLY.
36 degrees, Wheeling, Ohio County Airport. It's cold. The Storm Tracker 7 airport report is there is some snow coming down around the airport. 34 here at my home studios, 34 at the Robinson Auto Group Studios downtown Wheeling in the heart of the Ohio Valley. I'm not at the airport, so I can't tell you, but again, the report I'm getting from my airport online says that there is snow coming down at the airport. It is not here at my home studio. It's going to be colder today, 44 for the high. Going to be breezy, so it's going to feel colder than 34, for example. Our 36 right now feels like 26 degrees. So it's a cold, cold morning. And again, probably mixing with at least a little bit of snow. Not a cumulative snow, not that, but it's just going to kind of mix with some snow during the morning this morning. Where have we been and where are we going? Ohio County School Board candidates answered questions from the educators and from the public last night at a Meet the Candidates forum. We'll review some of what they had to say. After a lengthy pandemic pause, our Uniglobe Ohio Valley Travel Show is back. Bill Bryson will have a look at how the travel industry is rebounding, what trips they're working on, and what you may need to know to start traveling again. West Virginia Delegate Mike Pushkin drops by to discuss the Democrats' proposed gas tax holiday and also Biden's billionaire tax. Newspaper editor John McCabe and I have the Friday Roundtable. We'll look at local news of the week, including more money for Wheeling Park High School's new athletic field up on top of the hill, the future of the cracker plant here in the area. A former cop was sentenced this week. Some of what John and I will kick around in the Roundtable. Something on your mind this morning? Text me 304-214-1600, 304-214-1600. Got a couple of texts I want to share with you. I don't know if this is because I've got the cold and the flu and they're reminding me of this or not, but anyways, Marshall and Ohio County Health Departments are both now doing second dose booster shots for those 50 and older and those immunocompromised. You can call either the Marshall County or the Ohio County Health Department. We talked briefly about this yesterday. Friday is this is absolutely true. Friday, a good day to get that booster in case you might have any kind of a side effect. You got the weekend to recover from it, so that's actually a pretty good thing to check into. Let's see. Yes, as I predicted, people are continuing to criticize me because, like the vast majority of America, we are following the Slapgate, the Chris Rock, Will Smith story, because we actually believe there's something more to life than just, we've got to figure out what H. Bill 422 is doing. So I knew I'd get it. Boring. So you told us Chris Rock said nothing in his stand-up show. Well, that was really important. Well, now you're better informed on that subject. Let's see. Off the text line, 304-214-1600. Really nice to see Bill Bryson is back talking travel. He'll be in at 8:30 this morning. We, meaning our texter, never stopped traveling, but followed all the restrictions. In the past 8 months, we've been to Berlin, Paris, Nice, Napoli, and 2 weeks ago to New York City. I think that's Alan from Neff's. Pardon me. He and his daughter do a lot of traveling. And yes, the Uniglobe Ohio Valley Travel Show will be back in just a bit. Let's see here. Okay, I don't quite know what this means or what prompted it. Republicans have nothing but bad ideas. And Democrats have no ideas. I don't know. That's off the text line. Democrats do have some ideas. In fact, let's talk about one of those ideas with West Virginia Delegate Mike Pushkin. Mike, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on again.
So you heard a texter says Republicans have bad ideas and Democrats have no ideas. I don't know. How do you respond to that?
I think that must have been an April Fool's joke because we have plenty of ideas, and I'm looking forward to sharing them with you. I mean, one we've been talking about for the past several weeks is the suspension of the gas tax here in West Virginia. I think everybody in West Virginia is feeling it every time they gas up their vehicle, and we've put forth an idea. It's not a new idea. It's an idea that our neighbors in Maryland, Virginia is looking at it. Even that progressive mecca of Georgia has initiated it. But to suspend the gas tax. To give average, working West Virginians a break at the pump. That proposal was met with really just a ridiculous statement from the governor where he blamed us for, every social ill going on in the world instead of actually addressing the issue that he can. It is within his power, especially while we've been under this constant state of emergency, it is within his power to suspend a tax like that. There were several times where Governor Manchin, when he was governor, froze the gas tax, and I believe Governor Wise suspended a tax, sales tax on certain building materials during his tenure as governor. So yeah, it is within the governor's power to do it. It's just I think they just don't want to work with an idea that isn't theirs. So we do.
Your colleague Delegate Fluharty last week on this show said that he says, I don't think the governor understands how government works, which sometimes I wonder about that myself.
I think a lot of times people vote for somebody from the business world, and I'm not completely against. I think it's good to have people who have knowledge of business, but sometimes they don't understand that we live in a democracy and we have 3 equal branches of government, and we need to work with each other in order to represent all the people. I think sometimes people who come from a strict business background where they're the boss and what they say goes, I don't think they quite understand that, and it makes for really bad chief executives when they don't tend to listen to other people, especially people who happen to have a different letter after their name. But when you go fill up at the gas pump, it doesn't care whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever. You still got to pay that gas tax right now, which is an extra 35 cents on top of already high gas prices. It's something that we could do right now to help out people in West Virginia, and we should do it.
Let me be the cynic here, not for you, but the cynic for the legislature in general. Looking at this past session, I didn't see by the leadership, I'm talking about the Republican leadership, I didn't see much of an interest in helping the average citizen. I mean, the reality is there was some talk of some things that could be done to help out, the average working West Virginian, and most of those things didn't succeed, and there didn't seem to be a lot of interest in helping out the yous and the me's of the world.
I hate to say it, but I mean, I first was elected in 2014. That's the year that the House and the Senate, the entire legislature, went from Democrat to Republican. And since then, before I got on the phone with you, I was trying to think about one tax break that we've given that would help average working people in West Virginia. For years and years, the Republican Party, my grandfather's Republican Party, were for cutting taxes. They've not been able to agree on a single tax break that actually helps working people. And we are proposing one right now. This is a suspension of the gas tax, which everybody's feeling right now. And they can't accept that idea because it didn't come from them. It's not a Republican idea. It's not a Democratic idea. We see states with Republican governors. Most of the states that are doing it have Republican governors. This isn't partisan. We don't care. They can take credit for it. We just want it to happen. But you're right.
Let's talk about some of the some of the objections that have been raised. The argument is that the gas tax goes to support our road bonds, and that we have an obligation to continue that revenue stream coming in. So we really can't not have the gas tax coming in, because it would be, I don't know if default is the right word, but we would not be then supporting the road bonds the way we had said that we would. That sounds to me like an argument of some validity, is it not?
Well, if you look at other states that are doing it, they also have road bonds. They're able to backfill that money, so to make sure that we still remain whole in that regard. The reason we would be able to backfill that money, though, a large part of that is because of money that we're getting from the federal government, because of decisions that have been made by Congress and the Biden administration. So we have, if we believe what we're told here, soon we should be sitting on $1 billion surplus in West Virginia. We can backfill some of the money that would not be taken in. If we suspend that 35-cent a gallon tax for a month or until it starts to go back down, we could backfill it, and it would not affect our road bond. It hasn't affected it in other states.
It's another example. We have $1 billion surplus, and I think part of it's a manufactured surplus because of the way the governor has built his revenue estimates, and also
they lowball the estimates.
Huge
they lowball the estimates.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's because of the huge influx of federal money. But nonetheless, there is what is determined to be a $1 billion surplus out there. How much of that is going to go to help, again, my comment earlier, the average West Virginian? I just feel like I keep saying we because I'm thinking about me and my family and my neighbors and we don't get much consideration. There's $1 billion there. How about finding ways to send some of that to us? Gas tax suspension may be one that could do it. Mike, did I hear some talk yesterday that if the gas tax suspension doesn't work, that maybe some kind of an other tax rebate would be an option that you would look at?
That's what some states have decided to do, and I think what my colleagues said, they had a press conference the other day, said that's great. Look, if you don't like our idea, it would actually immediately help motorists in West Virginia. If you don't like our idea, try one of come up with an idea of your own. Or how about this idea? How about a $100 rebate a month per vehicle in the state? And that would also help offset these high gas prices. So whatever the idea is, we want to help working people in West Virginia. That's what we want to do. And you're right. During this past session, absolutely nothing got done to really address the real issues in West Virginia. I would like. Well,
efforts were made to hurt the people.
Yeah. I would like to tell you that we have a special session coming up. I wish we could go back and address the foster care crisis. We had a bill that would have gone a long way in addressing that. That bill, unfortunately, was held up by Eric Tarr for so long. They didn't run out of time on it. He held the bill in Senate Finance for a very long time. And then that bill, unfortunately, did not pass. That's one of the biggest crises facing this state. We have 7,000 kids in state custody right now, and we did absolutely nothing to address that issue. But that's not what we're going back into special session for. But I would hope that during the special session we could address the problems that our constituents are facing at the pump.
Some texts from my listeners. Maryland took away their state gas tax, says this listener. I was traveling on I-68 yesterday, got gas in Cumberland at $3.67 a gallon. So Maryland has done this.
Exactly. People are noticing this, and I think I think Senator Tarr put out a press release where he was saying that our proposal would only benefit people from out of state. That's preposterous. If people are traveling through states, they're going to know hey, we better gas up before we get to, before we come through Wheeling. We better gas up before we go through before we hit I-79. People are going to gas up in neighboring states. They're not going to gas up here because our gas prices are higher because we have failed to come together and suspend that gas tax.
Well, also, to me, a bigger argument would be, if those who are traveling through get a benefit, that's fine. But more importantly, those who live here get the benefit as well. I mean, I don't want to not give a benefit to our citizens just because other people might also drive through and take advantage of it. And that would be silly. A question here from a listener off the text line. What would keep gas stations from not just keeping the price the same and pocketing the 35 cents?
Well, hopefully, the Attorney General and his Consumer Protection Division, I would hope that they would step up and do their job and enforce price gouging laws.
Mike, so what's your best guess on this? I don't think the governor's going to come around. Are you going to get a shot at it during the special session, do you think? Or is this... Go
ahead.
No,
we have a special session.
What's your best guess?
We have a special session coming up towards the end of April. I wish the governor would just go ahead and do it. It is completely within his power to suspend this tax. I would hope that we would be able to consider it during the special session. We are going to keep bringing it up. We're going to keep talking about it because I think people of West Virginia deserve a break at the pump. There is another issue, though. It's something that just the Biden administration just released their budget. I believe earlier this week, and I wanted to just briefly discuss that because I think it's important to talk about. What they're talking about is a different form of what we had talked about before, which was the billionaire's tax. I think this would only affect about 700. This was for families that whose wealth is over $100 million. That's not going to affect, unfortunately, not.
Well, that leaves me out.
That's me too, and most of your listeners, I would imagine. if not all, and most of the folks in West Virginia. But it's a different way of calculating the tax. Like you and I, we get taxed on our income. We go out and we work for a living, and we pay a percentage of that, towards our income tax. However, the wealthiest 1% in the country, lucky for them, they don't actually have to go out and punch a clock. They are living off of their wealth, off of interest of that, and taking out loans, borrowing money against their stock portfolios. This would, delve into that, tax them on what they're really worth, so they would also pay their fair share. I don't think anybody thinks it's fair that that billionaires are paying a lower tax rate than state troopers, than nurses, than teachers. But they are, and it's how it's been for a long time in this country. The Biden budget would create this new billionaires tax, which would allow us to fund essential services like our defense budget. It would fund the police, and it would do so also reducing the federal deficit by $1 trillion over 10 years.
I absolutely want to find a way to tax billionaires, and it's frustrating to me that billionaires as individuals and some of these large companies like Amazon and so on pay no taxes. Somewhere along the way, that has got to come to an end. They need to pay not their fair share. They need to pay they need to pay their fares. They need to pay, in the same vein that we all pay. However, I need to read exactly what the Biden proposal is, because what they're talking about unrealized capital gains. I mean, a lot of us have that. I don't have a ton of money or investments, but I have some. I don't want to be taxed on the money I've got set aside in my retirement account, for example, and so I'm not sure the billionaires should be either. I'm not sure how this is going to work, and I'm not sure what mechanism could be used, but I'm kind of, I think it's with Senator Manchin who says I don't like to tax people on money they haven't received. The value of their stocks could go down just as easily as go up, for example.
Yeah. Well, okay. You say you have investments. You wouldn't be. You said earlier you're not worth over $100 million, so that you would not be taxed on your investments. However, if you're like me, your biggest investment is your real property. It's your house. Yeah. And you are taxed on that. And if the value of your house goes up, that slightly would adjust your property tax. So that's the way I see it, is that these folks who are worth over $100 million, that's what they live off of. They're not paying an income tax because they're making an income by borrowing against their wealth with the very low interest rate. So this is a way to address that loophole that the Jeff Bezos of the world, that the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world have been slipping through for years, and allows us to tax them at a fair share, so we're able to reduce the deficit, fund our defense, and fund the police in a fair manner.
Yeah, well, your point of your analogy of property tax is actually a good one, which I hadn't really thought about. As the value of my property goes up, I pay more in property taxes. When it goes down, I pay less. So something like that might make some sense. I absolutely feel that the uber wealthy in this country get away with far too much. We've got to bring it to an end. I just want to make sure that it's fair to everybody. But if there are ways to do it, where we can get money from the billionaire. What bothers me, Mike, and I think I'm sure you do too, it's not how it happens. It's the richest among us pay the least taxes among us. There's something wrong with that.
Well, that's how it's been for far too long. And I think if you look at what the Biden administration has proposed in their budget, and it's a slight variation on what was proposed before, I think by Senator Wyden, it is a fair way to do it, and it's done something that a previous president didn't do. It addresses the deficit. The deficit went up because of the Trump tax cut, which was a tax cut for the wealthiest of Americans without any way to pay it back. This is a fair tax on families that worth over $100 million, and it addresses the deficit. It's something that we've all been worried about for a long time. Our deficit keeps going up. This would take us right back in the right direction.
Mike, I have to move on. I appreciate talking to you. We should do this more often. It's always good conversation. I'd like to get you back again and talk some more. It's good for us to talk. I got to move on right now, but thanks for being here today. Thanks for the work that you do, and we will talk again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Howard.
Thanks a lot. West Virginia Delegate Mike Pushkin, who is a Democrat, one of the Democratic leadership team, and good to talk to him. I enjoy him. I remember when he first came into the legislature, and his first year, he was very vocal and really stepped up and took some strong positions, and I was very pleased to see that, and he's only grown. That sounds very condescending of me, isn't it? But I think he's really become a very good legislature. Off the text line on this gas thing, how come gas can go up overnight, but when the prices come down, it takes days? I have to say, this week, I have noticed gasoline prices dropping almost daily. I mentioned the other day, a station in Ohio, $3.99 one day, the next day $3.79, the next day about $3.72. So they are going down. Gas prices are going down, and they do go down. I don't know about as quickly, but they go down fairly quickly. There's no question they go up maybe faster than they do go down. Well, it's 8:32, 28 till the hour. We haven't talked to Bill Bryson for a while, and we haven't had our regularly scheduled travel show for, 2 years, I guess. So it's good to have the Uniglobal High Valley travel team back, and we're going traveling next on the Watchdog Morning Show.
Now it's time for your local news headlines from 7 News, TRF, My Ohio Valley, and ABC Ohio Valley. Only on AM 1600 WKKX. The Watchdog.
Good Friday morning, Ohio Valley. I'm Stephen Ruffing with your 7 News headlines. Some big news this morning regarding rising gas costs. President Biden is ordering the release of 1 million.
I sent him these 2 pages of notes yesterday. And you should have those.
All right, very good. Big chair. All right. Hey, Biff, when you do the video feed, do you do it from the computer in the studio? Is that where that comes from? Okay. All right. I'm trying to come up with a way that I can see the guests. And I was thinking if we started putting the guests in the chair and showed them where to push the button for the main camera, they might be able to see me, and I can see them on the Zoom. I'm not sure. I don't know if this can work. I got to think about it. But my first question was just where is physically, what computer do we use? So, okay, that helps me. Yes, I did.
Which one is the
Yep.
dump button?
2 pages worth, right?
Yeah, is there a dump button?
Yep, I got him. Okay, thanks.
This one?
Yeah, that's the.
Oh, it says dump, that's why.
That's one of those. That's the dump button, and then the other one is the cough button. So we got a dump button and a cough button. You don't need to worry about the red one. I got a red one. But yeah, you could, if you wanted, you could use the cough button.
I just wondered, like.
Yeah, you got buttons over there.
Pardon me.
Mountaineer head coach Neil Brown and the Mountaineers back on the field tomorrow to bring a wrap to week number 2 of spring drills. That is today's Mountaineer Report, brought to us by Kroger, the official grocer of WVU Athletics. I'm Tony Caridi on the Mountaineer Sports Network from Learfield.
Coming up on Metro News Hotline.
On the Friday edition of the show, we get a live report from New Orleans on the eve of the Final Four, plus make our WrestleMania picks. Pat Strader will be here at 4:30 with Beer Friday. Brad Howe from Sportsline joins us at 5, plus your calls, texts, tweets, in or out, and our question of the day.
Metro News Hotline with Dave Weekly. Weekday afternoons from 3 till 6 at WVMetroNews.com and on this Metro News station.
Greer Industries is a proud supporter of the West Virginia Scholar Program and West Virginia Wesleyan. For over 100 years, Greer Industries has been providing products that build a solid foundation and pave the way to a bright future. Greer Asphalt Company has 3 conveniently located asphalt plants in north central West Virginia, where they can produce a superior product with unparalleled customer service, all WVDOH approved. To learn more, visit GreerIndustries.com or call 304-296-2549.
You want sports talk? We got the goods all night long. Tune into Sports Map Radio, evenings and overnights on FM 98.1, AM 1600. We are the Watchdog.
Do you think it actually happened?
You're never too far from the most local programming in the Ohio Valley. Find us here. AM 1600 and 1370. FM 98.1 and 97.7. We are the Watchdog. The Watchdog.
When you want to get away from it all, call Uniglobe Ohio Valley Travel. Now, here's Howard Monroe with the captain of the Uniglobe team, Bill Bryson.
Well, I'm kind of excited to hear that old intro once again, and welcome Bill Bryson back. We've talked to Bill a little bit on and off over the last couple of years, but the truth of the matter is, it's been like almost 2 years, Bill, I guess, since we've sat down and had one of our regular programs. Tough time in your industry for the last couple of years.
Last 2 years have been pretty tough, yeah. We've bobbed and weaved and driven the Uniglobe vehicle through the minefield, and here we are 2 years later, hoping we don't have any more issues to deal with.
Travel is on the rebound now. You're seeing more and more people wanting to travel. More and more people are able to travel. More and more of the prohibitions against travel are beginning to be dropped. Am I right about that?
You're absolutely right. I think a couple things. First of all, people are just fed up. We're going heck with this. We actually had somebody travel, 6 to 8 months ago, and did get COVID, and they had to be quarantined. They came back. First thing they did was booked another trip. It's like, this isn't going to stop it. So we're seeing a lot of that. I think a lot of the people have either been vaccinated or had the disease and have built up immunities one way or another, and they feel pretty safe. We did a 2-week cruise in February into March, and we were curious, is there anybody on the boat that has COVID. And we'd ask our waiter and all that, and every night, every other night or so, we'd say, "Hey, what's the tally?" And she said, "Nobody's got it." 2 weeks into the cruise, last night, nobody on the ship had developed COVID. So that was a good sign, and I think we're seeing that pretty much across the board now.
What are the cruise protocols? Do you have to be vaccinated? Do you have to have, what are the protocols for taking a cruise now?
It's different depending on where you're going.
Okay.
So like on this Royal Caribbean cruise that we took, we had to have a vaccine 2 days prior to going. And then there were forms that needed to be filled out for, I think Costa Rica was one of them or something. And everybody seemed to have their different rules. Some places, unless you took a cruise ship tour, you couldn't go beyond like the shopping area right there in the port. And if you, a lot of people are going to wander out into the city anyway, but if they were just going to do some shopping, that was fine. Or if they took a Royal Caribbean tour, they could go out and enjoy the tour. But finally, CDC this week announced that no longer warning travelers about the risk of contracting COVID on cruise ships after 2 years. And some of the people just had a field day with cruises, and it's nice to see that they've actually come out and said, "Hey, we're going to drop that. We're not recommending against cruising anymore." So that was a huge step.
I would assume that as a general rule, in general categories, cruising probably was the most affected. I mean, literally cruise lines stopped for a good period of time. I would assume that was the biggest general area of travel that got hit by the pandemic.
Absolutely, and I'm thinking they're seeing a small space, people going to be in that space for a certain number of days. If you're going to different places, you have the ability, even if nobody's got, and they were testing everybody getting on the boat, but you go to a island or something, and then somebody brings it on the ship, and then you're stuck. So, I think personally a little bit reacted a little bit, but the cruise lines really were handled it better than I would have done, but they came out of it okay, and it looks like, again, if we don't see anything else, kind of setting them back, but the cruises still, the ones we took in February still are not, they were only about half full by design. They were not selling the full number of cabins. So they're doing so many things that I didn't even think about until I actually got on the boat to see what they were doing to try to, keep and prevent the spread and keep anybody from getting it and all that. And cruise lines in general did a great job of controlling that and keeping their industry afloat.
Now, what's important to me on cruises, Bill? What are they doing about food? Come on, let's be honest. That's the big thing for me in a cruise.
Absolutely. The dining rooms were open pretty much normal. The Lido Deck buffet was not open for dinner. And we're not quite sure why they did it that way, but that was a little bit disappointing because sometimes people like to go up there just for a casual dinner instead of going to the dining room. Yeah. But the one thing they told us that last week is they were doing the every other tables as well. So they said some of these protocols are going away next week. So they had realized that they were maybe overly cautious, and now that you can sit next to the table next to you and it's not every other one anymore, they didn't feel like they needed to keep doing that. So they were excited. The cruise people were excited that some of these protocols that have been in place are in the process now of going away. And we're also seeing some of the foreign countries, whether it's cruise or other, starting to drop their rules too. So it's good news for travel. A lot of the rules that have been in place are starting to fall off.
Before I leave the cruise lines, so the buffets weren't open in the dinner time. I'm with you. That's kind of weird, but okay. How are they handling buffets the other time? I mean, is it still self-serve, or do you have people serving to you now? How are they handling
serving,
that?
Let's say breakfast, if you're going up and you want scrambled egg, you just simply, I want that. And they put whatever
Right.
you want on your plate, and you want some potatoes with that, okay, give me 2 of those, okay. And they do that. And that actually worked very well. You know, there were no lines, again, partly because they weren't selling the whole ship, but I don't think we ever had to wait in line, even at the buffet. But that part worked very well. They had the drinks kind of pre-poured. If you wanted, you just pick one up and go.
Gotcha.
The buffets on the Lido deck, they did work well for breakfast and lunch.
Now, one more thing before I talk about some of your upcoming events. Airlines have had mask mandates, and there's been some real debate about that recently. Should they drop those mask mandates? There's some talk about them dropping it. I mean, what's the story with airlines and airports and airplanes, I guess?
Okay, that's probably the most uncomfortable. I know we flew in and out of Barbados. Well, you can't get to Barbados directly from Pittsburgh. So you're going to go Pittsburgh, I think we went D.C. and down, and same kind of coming back. So you are either in an airport or on an airplane a long time. And, you know, you have to wear a mask on the plane, you have to wear a mask in the airport, unless you're eating. And, I mean, how many lollipops can you use? There are 21 states right now that have sued the government to drop those mandates, and I think that's what you're going to see next. I think right now it's in place for this month, April, and I think they're set to expire like April 30th, and they're liable to expire before that, but regardless, I think you're going to see those go away probably within another month.
We're talking to Bill Bryson from Uniglobe Ohio Valley Travel. Bill, let's talk about some things you guys have got coming up. You're finally getting back in the swing of things, getting some of your motor coach trips, your state park trips, all those kinds of things. What do you got interesting coming up that you can tell us about?
Well, the one thing that my next trip is on this West Virginia waterfalls. We thought maybe staying close in and doing a motor coach trip for about 3 days, 2 nights. And we've never done one on West Virginia waterfalls. So we're going to do that May 16th through 18th. We did a mailer about 2 weeks ago, and we had, I don't know, maybe 18 or 20 people on it. That thing has really taken off. I got 40 people on it right now. So
well, we've looked at that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, and Sally and I are going to actually do the trip next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We're going to drive the trip the same way we would on the bus. Let's go to Blackwater Falls. You know, can we get to the falls? Can all of our people get to the falls? Overnight and dinner there, breakfast the next morning, and then work our way down through the southern part of the state. Cathedral Falls, Babcock State Park, Sandstone Falls, and down to Pipestem. And then we'll overnight dinner and breakfast at Pipestem, and then work our way back on day 3. So we're kind of excited about it. We haven't done that before, and I'm thinking that's going to be a pretty cool trip.
Well, I was kind of eyeing that up. First of all, I like West Virginia trips. I haven't done one for a while. Nancy and I used to do them occasionally. So I like the idea of just, spending some time in state. We do have a lot of waterfalls. People don't realize that. You think of Blackwater Falls, but there are quite a few others. What, about a dozen waterfalls in the state that you go to, right? I mean, scenic waterfalls.
Probably maybe 2 dozen or more. There's a couple that are really good, but they're too far away to try to include them on the trip. So maybe we'll do a second trip in another year or so on a little bit different loop and pick up some of these other falls as well. And then a lot of the falls they're beautiful, but 1.2 miles from the parking lot. Well, we're not going to do that. We're going to try to do something that's really close. So I would say you could probably say maybe 2 dozen waterfalls, probably more than that, but 2 dozen waterfalls that people can hike to or see on a coach trip or something like that. So, yeah, this is
we as you know from the last trip we took last year, I'm not as mobile as I used to be for some health reasons. So I have to kind of pay attention to how much walking is there. Love to go on this waterfall trip. If it isn't, I ain't going 1.2 miles up the road. You know what I'm saying?
Nor is anybody else on the bus. And we've kind of learned that. So that's why we're going. I want to see at Cathedral Falls, how far is it? And not only how far it is it uphill, downhill? Is it on a paved surface? So we'll have all of that and at least be able to, tell folks, hey, it's this, we're safe here, or skip one altogether and say, hey, we're not going to go here, let's just go over here. And the other big thing is, can I do all this, especially day 2, in the allotted amount of time? I'm looking at the map and thinking, okay, that's half an hour over, and if we're there for 45 minutes, how much time do we have? So putting all that together would be kind of fun to actually walk through it once before we have to take a whole group.
Well, the last event, your local promotion events that Nancy and I attended before the pandemic shut things down was an event you held, I think, over at Melman's, actually, promoting theater shows and some Pittsburgh trips right before the pandemic hit. And boy, we had seen quite a few of them. We were going to do several of them. And then the pandemic came and the shows stopped being run and the trips were done. What's happening with the theater shows? Are they back on track? I remember there was a Marvin Hamlish show that was going to be in Pittsburgh and some other things that I really was interested in. Are they putting those back on the table now?
Yes, and we were, pretty frustrated with them. They seemed to want to cancel everything at the drop of a hat. In fact, we did that riverboat cruise in Pittsburgh on the Gateway Clipper last fall, and that was with Ron Retzer and his group. But that came when we tried to do something in Pittsburgh with the shows. We tried to do something with the Gateway Clipper, and they were locked down. They weren't allowed to do anything, and so we said, fine, we'll just do it ourselves. So we put our own trip together, and that's how we did that Ron Retzer thing last fall, and that was a big hit. We'll do that again one of these days. But the theaters, we are going to have an event next Saturday. That would be April the 9th out at Wheeling Jesuit, Troy Theater out at Wheeling. It's not Jesuit anymore, Wheeling University. Troy Theater at 2 o'clock next Saturday, April the 9th, to unveil all of the shows that are coming for the latter part of 2022 and into 2023. So we're pretty excited about that.
So they're putting those shows back in business. So you have to take a look and see what you've got there.
Yeah.
Bill, I would think during this pandemic, the need for travel didn't stop. It became more difficult, became less frequent, particularly pure recreational travel was dramatically impacted. But I would think if you're traveling, and probably still, the need for a travel agent is probably greater now than it was before. It used to be you just go on, if you wanted to, just go online, book your airplane, book your whatever, and go. You don't need a travel agent, people would think. I always think you do need one. But I would think the need for a travel agent is much more significant now.
Well, we've seen over the last 2 years, and we've gotten calls and people swearing they'll never do it on their own again. People that used a travel agent fared better in the last 2 years than those who did not. There are people that got through it and did things and were fine, but we probably never got as many calls as, hey, I tried to do this and I can't, and they won't give me my money back, and they said I got to do this, and and you're still trying to help them as best you can. But those last 2 years, we saw a lot of stuff that, again, whether the advice, the arranging for refunds, the vouchers, the rebookings, all that kind of stuff. I think there are some folks that actually ended up with the same trip rebooked 4 times. But now as we're coming out of the pandemic, everyone seems to have a different set of rules. And that's why, okay, that it looks like we can go now, but do I need a vaccination to go? Do I need a booster? If they say you're fully vaccinated, does that mean a booster? With some it does, with some it doesn't. Do I have to take my shot records with me? Are there mask mandates? What about getting back into the U.S.? What happens if I catch COVID or something while I'm all of those things, and they're different with every question that is asked. This country, it's this way. This country, it's that way. This is, in the Caribbean, they're going to do it this way. And there's no one answer for all those questions. And again, the people that used the travel agency fared better than those that did not. And I tell you, the girls in the office, they were like attorneys, and going to war with some of these vendors, and not necessarily getting them to bend the rules, but trying to say, hey, on this date, this was your rule. This is who we talked to. This is what they said. Go back and listen to the phone conversation, and this client, our client, is entitled to this. And I tell you what, the girls are pretty good. They win a lot of them. And some of them taking like 6 months, but they have won a lot of them. But again, it's just
Bill,
it's just all that knowledge, And again, whether you call and book an all-inclusive vacation in the Caribbean or we do it for you, you're paying the same price. So why not take the advantage of having somebody who knows and knows if we don't know, we'll find out what the rule is in that particular country or whatever. So, yeah.
Well, I've always said, listen, here's the deal. If there's a problem on my trip, I just want to call and say, Bill, help. I don't want to be worried about it myself.
On one hand, we hate those calls, but on one hand, we can help, and it's not one person. We've had this conversation in the office a lot, and I'm glad we did this. This goes back to my LS Good days, and Larry Good. I learned that from him. No one person owns a client. No one person owns a transaction. We don't pay people on commission. It's an office. So if Howard's on a trip and Howard calls and says, hey, Bill, I got a problem here. What can we do? And all of a sudden you have 2, 3, 4 people working on the problem. I'll make it really fast. Our best story on that, we were going to Alaska one time, and it was a mom and daughter, and the mom had her passport, and the son had a passport, but it was a driving passport. You couldn't fly. And we were due the next day on the cruise ship. Once we realized we had a problem, 3 different girls in the office stayed that night, and one worked on the air, because if you go fly to Seattle, you can drive across the border. And that's all we needed, one shot. So somebody worked on the air, somebody worked on the hotel, somebody worked on the land transportation. And I tell you, I was never so happy to see those 2 walk on board the ship the next day. But again, just a good example of how the whole office is at your fingertips.
Bill, we've only got 2 minutes tonight. Let's do these like a checklist here real quick.
Okay.
Tell me about baseball. Are you back in baseball trips now?
We got 3 baseball. We got the Cardinals. I always said we got 2, Wainwright and Yair Molina last year for the Cardinals. Get a chance to see them. This is on May the 20th. I got about 10 seats left. Now Albert Pujols is back for 1 more year with the Cardinals. Another big reason. Maybe you want to see that one. Only got 10 seats left on that. And the new Cleveland team, they're calling them the Guardians now, June the 12th. It's a Sunday afternoon. We're going to do a single game up for the Cleveland game. And unfortunately sold out, but we already get 2 buses for the July 5th Pirate-Yankee game. Another thing I want to point out, something really different. We're going to do Margaritaville, October 13 to 17. It's 2 days at the Margaritaville Resort in Hollywood Beach, Florida. Then we'll take a motor coach up to West Palm Beach, and 2 days on this newly renovated ship with a Margaritaville theme. So the Margaritaville at sea. So it's 2 days land, 2 days seas, all Margaritaville. This is October 13th through 17th, and that looks like a lot of fun for that. So, and then on this theater thing, this is we don't even know what the theater shows are. They announce them on Monday. That'll give us 4 or 5 days to kind of put our trips together. But on Monday, we'll have our stuff, and then Saturday at 2 p.m., Troy Theater at Wheeling University. Come on out and see it. We'll have our talk on theater shows for late 22 and 23.
And I don't have any more time to talk about it, but I'm looking forward to getting my kicks on Route 66 this fall, too.
That has been so much fun. Our package, you come the night before a trip or 2 weeks before a trip, we give you a packet and all that kind of stuff. This packet is going to be huge. We've got more stuff planned for that, and a lot of it's come in already, and that is going to be one really cool trip.
We can talk about that next time around. Got to run, Bill. Good talking to you. Folks can give you a call at the office, or you or anybody at the Uniglobal Ohio Valley Travel office, or if they're downtown, pop in. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
We'll be back in 2 weeks.
Thanks a lot. Bill Bryson, Uniglobal Ohio Valley Travel. Good to have him back. It's 9 o'clock here on the Watchdog Morning Show.
The Watchdog is FM 98.1, AM 1600 WKKX Wheeling, FM 97.7, AM 1370 WVLY Moundsville.
From ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. The Labor Department said the U.S. economy added 431,000 jobs last month, and the unemployment rate dropped to 3.6%. That's the lowest number of the pandemic. More on the jobs report from ABC's Aaron Katersky.
A quarter of all the new jobs came from restaurants and bars that are taking advantage of disappearing coronavirus restrictions, though employment in leisure and hospitality is still down nearly 9% from before the pandemic. There were also notable gains in the professional and business services, retail trade, and manufacturing sectors.
President Biden will discuss the report later this morning. On Thursday, he announced a plan to try to lower gas prices, ordering the release of 1 million barrels of oil each day from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. As for another prong in this plan,
I'm calling for a use it or lose it policy. Congress should make companies pay fees on wells on federal lease